Okay, so we will be beginning with the topic on anticholinergic agents. Anticholinergic agents are also known as cholinergic receptor blockers, and the main action of these agents is to prevent the binding of acetylcholine to different receptors on the heart, CNS, smooth muscles, and exocrine glands. But first, we should know what is acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is an organic chemical cholinester which is directly acting cholinergic agonist. It is a quaternary ammonium compound. That means it has four ammonium pieces. So four of these H3Cs. It is rapidly hydrolyzed by cholinesterases and hence it has no therapeutic application. So we'll see its effects on various parts of the body in organ systems. First, we'll have its effect on the CVS, the heart's falling. So heart rate decreases, force of contraction decreases, and AV conduction is decreased. Then we have its effect on blood vessels. It has a decrease in BP via endothelium dependent relaxing factor or EDRF. So acetylcholine binds to these M3 receptors present along the endothelial cells. This causes the release of nitric oxide and then causes vasodilatation. This will decrease BP. Then we have its effect on the GIT. So the effect on acetylcholine is that we will want to go to the bathroom. So all the activities of the gastrointestinal tract will be increased. There will be increase in the tone of the gut, increase in peristaltic movements, and increase in GI secretions. Then we have its effect on the urinary bladder. It will cause contraction of the detrusor muscle, which will in turn relax the trigone and the sphincter, and will allow the passage of urine or urination. Then we have its effect on the bronchi. On the bronchi in the respiratory system, it will cause a bronchospasm. Then for exocrine glands, it causes increases secretions on all glands. And for the eye, it will cause contraction or drainage. In this case, accommodation or near distance vision is fixed. In the case of muscarinic actions, a high dosage of acetylcholine is required. In this case, it will increase BP and heart rate. For skeletal muscle, it will initially cause some reaction. Twitching and fasciculations will be there, but with more stimulation, it will be followed by prolonged depolarization of the neuromuscular junction and paralysis. Then, on the central nervous system. For the central nervous system, there will be poor penetration of the blood-brain barrier. That means there will be no central effects when this acetylcholine is administered, at least intravenously. So now that we have the basics down, we'll move on to the classification of anticholinergic agents. First, we'll see two main groups. There's anti-muscarinic agents and anti-nicotinic agents. So the no smoking sign, anti-nicotinic, and the muscle of the heart, anti-muscarinic. And anti-nicotinic agents are divided into two. There are ganglion blockers and neuromuscular blockers. So ganglion blockers will work on the nicotinic receptors, and neuromuscular blockers will act on the muscarinic receptors. Then we'll have anti-muscarinic agents. Anti-muscarinic agents are drugs which block muscarinic receptor mediated actions of acetylcholine on the heart, central nervous system, smooth muscles, and exocrine glands. When we look at the mechanism of action, it will bind to muscarinic receptors. So synthetic and semisynthetic compounds such as atropine and scopolamine, which are the antagonists, they will bind to these muscarinic receptors and block the binding of acetylcholine. This will be called competitive antagonism. In order to reverse this, we'll need to have a high amount of acetylcholine that will override this effect on the receptor. Anyway, now we move on to classification of antimuscarinic agents. Antimuscarinic agents are of two types: natural alkaloids and semisynthetic and synthetic antimuscarinic agents. Under natural alkaloids, we have two drugs, atropine and scopolamine. Atropine comes from the plant Atropa belladonna. So, during the Italian Renaissance around the 15th and 16th century, it was an idea that people with dilated pupils was a sign of beauty. So they would take plants and extract the liquid from that and use that on the eye. So this plant was called belladonna or beautiful woman. So here we have Lady Gaga. She's 75% Italian, three fourths. Atropa belladonna. Then we have scopolamine, which is a drug which comes from the plant Hyoscyamus niger. Moving on to synthetic antimuscarinic agents, we have atropine derivatives that are used as mydriatics as the first system in the eye. There are two drugs, homatropin and tropicamide. Think of Tropicana. Tropicamide is important as a mydriatic. Then we have drugs used in COPD and bronchial asthma, which is ipratropium bromide and tiotropium bromide. Think of the inhaler. And then we have drugs used in peptic ulcer. Two drugs are pyranzapine and tilanzapine. So this is a pine tree, which is used as a Christmas tree, but not a really good one. So just think of it as a pine tree. And this is pyre, and this is a telephone or a smartphone. But we'll call it tilanzapine, pyranzapine. Think of it that way. So pyranzapine is the first drug used in peptic ulcer, tilanzapine the second drug. Then drugs that are used in as an antispasmodic. There's two drugs, dicyclomine and velethamate. Velethamate is the more potent drug, but dicyclomine will come easier to the mind. So just think of a bicycle. Di means two, so two wheels. Dicyclomine. Then we have drugs used as pre-anesthetic agents. There is glycopyrrolate. Drugs used in Parkinsonism is there. So benzexol and benztropine. Think Mercedes-Benz. Okay. Then we go on to atropine. Atropine is the prototype drug and the chief alkaloid of belladonna. It is a tertiary amine and it has several pharmacological actions. So, atropine in the CNS will control tremor and rigidity in Parkinsonism by decreasing cholinergic activity in the basal ganglia. Then, we'll see that it causes passive mydriasis in the eye by acting on M3 receptors, which will cause dilatation of the pupils. Then we have cycloplegia. By acting on M3 receptors, there will be loss of accommodation due to paralysis of ciliary muscles and loss of light reflex. Moving on to the endocrine system, there will be decreased secretion of the exocrine glands. So remember earlier in the effects of acetylcholine, those increased all secretions. So this decreases all secretions. It does all of the opposite effects of acetylcholine. Moving on to the heart, it will cause initial bradycardia in low doses by acting on M1 receptors on the heart. And when provided a little bit more, it will cause tachycardia by acting on M2 receptors. Moving on to the GIT, it will cause decrease in tone, decrease in motility, and increase in sphincter tone. This will be to cause constipation and the exact opposite of acetylcholine. So you will not be able to go to the bathroom. Then for the urinary bladder, there will be decrease in tone of the detrusor muscle, and this will increase the tone of the trigone and sphincter, which will cause urinary retention. Also for the respiratory system, it relaxes the bronchial smooth muscle but dries up all secretions. This is important. Okay, so for pharmacokinetics, we have atropine and scopolamine, which are having most of the synthetic tertiary amines. They will be absorbed from the conjunctiva and the GI tract and distributed all throughout the body by crossing the blood-brain barrier and are then partially metabolized in the liver and partially excreted unchanged in the urine. Moving on, we have therapeutic uses of atropine and its substitutes. So, for the eye, we saw earlier there are two main drugs, atropine and tropicamide. So these drugs are used for refraction testing. Atropine will have a duration of action of 7 to 10 days. Homatropine will be 1 to 3 days. Cyclopentolate will be 24 hours and tropicamide will be 6 hours. Atropine is preferred in children due to its greater efficiency, but the drug with the shortest duration of action is tropicamide. So this is the drug to be looking out for. When we look at mydriatics, we think tropicamide. Then, for the second therapeutic use of atropine, and its substitutes is pre-anesthetic medication. So before giving general anesthetics, we will give atropine or glycopyrrolate. It will prevent vagal bradycardia during anesthesia, and it also prevents laryngospasm by decreasing respiratory secretions. Also, as a third therapeutic action, it will decrease all secretions, salivary secretions. So, glycopyrrolate is used to decrease excessive salivary secretion and is usually used in heavy metal poisoning and Parkinsonism. Moving on to its effects on the respiratory system, the two drugs, ipratropium bromide and tiotropium bromide, are used in chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder and asthma. It's administered by a metered dose inhaler or nebulizer, and it will produce bronchodilation without affecting mucociliary clearance. Hence, it is preferred over atropine. Then, in organophosphorus poisoning, atropine is the life-saving drug. Repeat after me. Atropine is the life-saving drug. This point will be important for two to three subjects on your university. So remember organophosphorus poisoning. Atropine is a life-saving drug. And in terms of mushroom poisoning, such as of mushrooms of the Inocybe species, atropine is the drug of choice. Moving on to Parkinsonism, we have centrally acting anticholinergic drugs such as benzoxazole, and those are preferred agents for the prevention and treatment of drug-induced Parkinsonism. Moving on to adverse effects and contraindication. For atropine, its adverse effects are an extension of its pharmacological actions. Whenever studying a drug, we have to know its adverse effects from A to Z or A to Z. So, pay very close attention. For atropine, in the CNS, large doses will produce restlessness, excitement, delirium, and hallucinations. Think of this mnemonic, anticholinergic side effects. Hot as a hair, dry as a bone, blind as a bat, red as a beet, and mad as a hatter. So the first drug, adverse effect is mad as a hatter. You will be restless, excited, maybe even delirious, and seeing things, hallucinations. Blind as a bat. You will have photophobia, headache, and blurring of vision. In elderly, people who have a shallow anterior chamber of the eye, they will most likely precipitate acute angle glaucoma. Hence, blind as a bat. Then, in the cardiovascular system, there will be tachycardia, palpitation, and hypotension. Hence, hot as a hair. In the GIT, there will be dryness of the mouth, throat, hence dry as a bone, and difficulty in swallowing and constipation. In the urinary tract, there will be difficulty in micturition and urinary retention, especially in elderly men with an enlarged prostate. Moving on to Atropa belladonnum poisoning. This is most common in children. But before that, review for yourself what are the adverse effects of atropine poisoning. So, what did we have? Mad as a hatter, blind as a bat, hot as a hare, red as a beet, and dry as a bone. Okay, moving on, we have acute belladonna poisoning. This is more common in children, and its presenting features involve fever, dry and flustered skin, photophobia, blurring of vision, difficulty in micturition, restlessness, excitement, confusion, disorientation, and hallucination. In severe poisoning, we may see respiratory depression, cardiovascular collapse, convulsions, coma, and even death. Treatment of belladonna poisoning is mainly symptomatic. First, bring them to the hospital. Hospitalization. Provide them with a gastric lavage in case of ingested poisoning. Then give them tepid sponging to control hyperpyrexia. Then give them diazepam to control convulsions. And as an antidote for atropine poisoning, give them physostigmine at 1 to 2 milligrams. This is injected intravenously and slowly, which will counteract with the peripheral and central effects of atropine poisoning. Moving on to the next drug, scopolamine, which comes from Hyoscyamus niger, as we remember earlier. It's an alkaloid, produces all the actions of atropine, and in therapeutic doses, it produces prominent CNS depression with sedation and amnesia. It is the drug of choice for motion sickness and may be administered orally or as a transdermal patch. So, if it's given as a patch, it will be given um, behind the ear along wherever the mastoid process is. So, near just behind the earlobe. And if it's given orally, it will be giving at 0.2 milligrams, at least half an hour before the journey. So the patch is given 4 to 5 hours before the journey, and it will last 45 hours. So what this scopolamine does, how does it act? Scopolamine will travel to an apparatus known as the vestibular apparatus of the ear. This apparatus, we remember from his physiology, that there are some crystals which will be shifting along the ear, and these crystals, when they shift along the ear, we will be feeling a sense of balance and motion. So if we moved around too much, our heads around tilted up and down, and say we were in a hilly area, then this vestibular apparatus will be unhinged or moving. This is what scopolamine does. It will act on this vestibular apparatus, cutting off that motion. So this will cut off the impulse to cerebellum, which would usually activate the vomiting center at this muscarinic receptor and histamine receptor. So this scopolamine is a blocker. It blocks this motion from acting on vestibular apparatus. Moving on to drug interactions of anticholinergics, we have H1 blockers, which are tricyclic antidepressants or TCAs, phenothiazines, which have atropine-like action and hence may potentiate anticholinergic side effects. And atropine alters the absorption of some drugs by delaying gastric emptying. The bioavailability of levodopa is reduced, but the absorption of tetracyclines and digoxin is enhanced due to increased gastrointestinal transit time. Moving on to ganglion blockers, they will act at nicotinic receptors of the autonomic ganglia, blocking both parasympathetic and sympathetic ganglia and producing a widespread complex effect. Having atropine-like action on the heart will have palpitation and tachycardia, mydriasis of the eye, GIT will be dry, bladder will be having urinary retention as usual. Impotence in male will be seen and decreased sweat secretion. Blockade of the sympathetic ganglia will also cause marked postural hypotension. Then, here are some examples of ganglion blockers. Nicotine, which is coming from tobacco leaves. It is an initial stimulant which later will cause a blocking effect on autonomic ganglia. It's usually given as a transdermal patch or as chewing gum for the treatment of tobacco and addiction. Then you have bupropion, which inhibits uptake and will be used for smoking cessation. Then we have varenicline, which is a partial agonist at nicotinic receptors and decreases craving and withdrawal symptoms during when one stops smoking. Moving on to trimethophan, it is a short-acting ganglion blocker and must be given by IV infusion. The only use of trimethophan is to produce controlled hypertension during neurosurgery. And so that is anticholinergic agents. Thank you.